I've been covering this case since it began for BBC World Service. So, very good to see it still going on. My question is just very brief. Is it Mau narrative? Mau narrative, the way you sell it, the way you tell it to the masses in the UK through the media, to the UK through the media, is very important. There has been historical misinformation. Books have been written showing or representing Mau as one group from one particular tribe in Kenya. But the truth is, when I met all these veterans, they get really upset, they get mad whenever any Kenyan or any other person tries to say Mau was a group from one community. It was a countrywide movement. And that's why when you see the real veterans come, they are from different tribes. And therefore the Mau narrative has to be told well through the media. Now the other question is, how do you choose the real Mau veterans? When you go to Kenya itself, you will find out that that could be hijacked by different people coming up and saying, we were veterans, but they weren't. How are you verifying that whether you call Mau veterans are genuine or not genuine?
My name is Agnes, an A-level student with an interest in Pan-African issues. My question concerns the future impact of the ruling. Providing the upcoming hearing proceeds as desired in that it wins, what precedent, if at all, would that set in your understanding, not only for the UK, but Africa in general? In addition to that, any comments with regards to Scramble for Africa? Thank you.
We will come, and we want money from the people who have made money. Making money the focus. It's not necessary. What is necessary is the cohesiveness of the people and the agenda of the people. Because if the people, like when Kenya became independent, the same people who came there for the money put somebody in power. They never put the people who had fight the wars in power. And it's not the same way in Kenya. Same way in Zimbabwe. Same way in South Africa. What could be a new agenda for Kenya outside of money for compensation?
Me and my friend from Eastern Education here do research especially in Africa, and my question is regarding the Mau. Obviously, we are in solidarity with Mau. Personally, I'm from Kenya myself. The question I would like to ask the legal team is that the British brutality and the utterly vile mentioned by Jeremy Corbyn, it's not limited to the veterans themselves, as somebody already touched on. In light of the precedent set by the Mau case, that is the first question. The second question is about the Pan-Africanism. I think talking of very ambitious, grand talk of Africanism as a whole is a very good thing. However, we got to understand the fact that immediately the decolonization took place, as Jeremy Corbyn said, rightly so. Decolonization started, and therefore there is a representative of Africans themselves. They are set by these people. So how can we go about educating our African people to liberate themselves? That's the question the Africans need to ask themselves, rather than going around and in circle, as mentioned around, saying that, yeah, we need this X, Y, Z. So the question is, what can Africans do for themselves to liberate their own self, rather than seeking through the Western way of liberation? That's the
people. How do we determine who was a Mau and who we choose to act for? Broadly speaking, that question doesn't arise for us, because we're not representing people because they're Mau. We're representing people because of what happened to them. Not all our clients could be considered, they consider some Mau, but there's variations on what that term is. And it's a very complex issue which I don't think we need to get stuck into here. But the most important thing, why we choose our clients, is what happened to them. Okay, it's not based on group, it's based on what happened to them. So I think that answers that question. Was it Agnes? Sorry,
yes.
It was. In regards to your question, I didn't catch the second half, but I caught the first off, and this isn't quite such a legal question, so if anyone else wants to add to this, please do. But you said what would be the significance of the judgment? I presume you mean kind of full-on after limitation, so like a proper trial judgment. I think it would be hugely significant in that, as far as I'm aware, other than a couple of incidences, there's the Indonesian and the Dutch case. It would be hugely significant because it would be the first time that a colonial power is being held responsible for effectively its governance of that colony over a particular period. And that the issues involved in the case are complex, but they deal with tissue detention, interrogation, abuses over a prolonged period of time.
I did my degree in international development, and I was so appalled at the amount of information that I was given about Mau to the extent my professor could not mark my paper because he told me there was no Mau at all, and it never existed. And this was a British doctor, a British professor. What I want to find out is, maybe on the legal team again, who is the respondent in this case? What is the difference between the current government and whom you are suing? Because I have heard that you said the Kenya government now says they don't know anything about this, they don't want, or they're not responding to some of the documents that they're there, saying that they are not responsible. And at the same time, you are using the venue here instead of maybe being in Christmas Island somewhere, rather than accusing the British government, using their facilities, being in the same people they're supposed to give you the sensitive documents. I'm just wondering, how do you work with this kind of scenario?
It's about whether you have got tungsten in your land, whether you've got cobalt in your land, whether you've got platinum for the whatever industry which oils and fuels Europe and its allies. That's fundamentally what we are dealing about here. The Mau comrades did not get their land. A point in case in Zimbabwe in 1980, when the comrades in Zimbabwe in ZANU-PF had been fighting against the British government. Now they don't want to talk about what happened pre-1980. For over those 100 years, what happened is that the British government promised white farmers they were going to compensate white farmers, not us. I'm Zimbabwean, not us. We're not going to get compensated. They were going to compensate white farmers. And the who wanted illegal sanctions have been applied in Zimbabwe, and all the attendant media have rubbished the whole process. Thank you.
And I just want to add on to, the speakers mentioned exactly what happened in Uganda. The war which took place maybe in the Second World War or in Mau or wherever is what happened in Uganda, which is been done by Yoweri Museveni. And it started from Uganda, it went into Rwanda, you heard about the genocide, and nobody related to Uganda. It went to Congo, now it's going to Congo in South Sudan. Uganda is sending army to Somalia. Uganda sent troops have been sent to fight on behalf of the British and the American government in Iraq, and also in Afghanistan, and all over the world, and nobody knows about this. So anyway, I'm going to be very brief. So in Uganda, there have been about 26 armed groups, or I would call them freedom fighters. But all of them have been banned, and their families are attacked. I have been a loudspeaker, and my family has been attacked. My mother and 13 members of my family were burned alive. But I cannot speak freely here in Britain. In a conference like this, I have to say, if I go out and they do anything, you are witness. That's what I'm telling you now. So I'm asking, how can we unburn the freedom fighters organization?
Looked after Irish freedom fighters, the welfare of Irish freedom fighters here for many years. And I just want to wish the campaign every support. And want to pledge my support to it. I have listened to the case in the High Court on a few occasions, and a few points I just want to make for the lawyers, and that is the Rosenthal Institute pursues old Nazis. And the statute of limitation has long gone. They are put on trial by several governments, including this one here, and I think that point should be taken into consideration. And for the Simon Rosenthal Institute to pursue old Nazis who have committed crimes against humanity long before, it's okay for your campaign to seek compensation. Is that the British state terrorist Frank Kitson, he wrote a book called Low Intensity Operations, where in that he outlined what he called the psychological warfare that was used against the Mau Mau, when crimes that weren't committed by the Mau Mau at all, where they tried to pretend that it was. And that was from Kitson's psychological warfare.
We just want to know, what advice would you give to the Mau Mau Justice Network and Africans in general about the relevance of the British judiciary process in terms of parliamentary and extra-parliamentary, as well as legal and extra-legal action?
Thank you. I'm afraid
it's lit a fuse, really. Lit a fuse to a lot of people who begin to realise an awful lot of other things that can flow from it. I mentioned the Leigh Act, there's a lot of other cases that could flow from it in similarity, and obviously I'll be looking forward to what happens in the court, and I hope that the victims get some degree of justice from it. I've been, as I said in my contribution, been following the Chagos case very, very closely. The Chagos case, for I guess most people in this room are familiar with it, the islands, what are now called British Indian Ocean territories, were depopulated by force in the 1980s to make way for the US base on Diego Garcia. The people were settled, deposited more like, in Mauritius and the Seychelles, and had a return. And they won the right of return in the High Court in 1980. That was then removed by the Orders in Council. Sorry, did I say 1980? No, I didn't mean 1980. I meant in 2000. And in 2004, the Order in Council was signed by the Queen. The two orders in council, one constitution and one immigration, which effectively prevented any right of return done by the Foreign Office. This has been challenged all the way through the British legal system and is now at the European Court of Human Rights, expecting a decision any time, hopefully before the summer break. There will be a decision on it. This is crucial because if they rule that the British government acted wrongly in the Orders in Council in 2004, then the Order in Council either to accept it and allow the islanders to return, or to introduce primary legislation in Parliament to reinstate the Orders in Council. Orders in Council are not debated in Parliament, cannot be debated in Parliament, cannot be challenged in Parliament. They are the legal process by the Crown, and they're used in the remaining British colonial territories, St Helena, Ascension Island, etc. And that is a crucial one. So that any result there would have enormous. What we're doing here is questioning the idea that you can't pursue justice forever. The parallel Jim drew about the War Crimes Act, which was a special act relating to the Nazi period, the principle, in my view, absolutely applies. That brutality and injustice were used against the people of Kenya. It's now well chronicled, well understood, and I just really seriously wonder how many more documents are hiding away about opens up a vista of challenging an awful lot of other colonial activities and exploitation that went on. We're very good at describing colonialism in Algeria. We're very good at describing the Belgian brutality in the Congo, both of which are absolutely true. Let's look at the British colonies as well, all of them. Thank you very much.